Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Schmertz. Republican candidates for president may disagree on immigration, banking regulation, and foreign policy. But last night, they did agree on one thing. The nation's tax code is too big, too complicated, and too much of a drain on the economy. They all said taxes need to be lowered and simplified. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is one of the candidates pushing for a flat tax.
I think what's important about the tax debate is that we have to ask the question, where is money best spent? In the private sector and the government sector. I want a government really, really small, so small you can barely see it. So I want lower taxes and much more money in the private sector. I've put pencil to paper and done 3 budgets that actually balance. I'm also in favor of a plan called the penny plan, where we'd just cut 1% across the board, and that budget actually balances in less than 5 years. So I think what's extraordinary about my tax plan is it is in the context of balancing the budget.
The candidates talked about doing away with a tax code several thousand pages long and replacing it, some say, with just fewer than 3 pages. So what are their plans, and are they workable? John Burnett is the New York State GOP strategic advisor. He is back here on Arise Exchange. First, the style of the debate. How did it compare to the CNBC debate, which was so controversial for the candidates?
Well, I definitely congratulate Fox Business News and Wall Street Journal on facilitating an awesome debate. They really focused on what's most important to the everyday American, which is how much money is going to be returned to my pocket, less taxes, how can I grow my wherewithal to be able to live the American dream. So the way I see it, the debates went from preschool to higher ed.
Okay, and a real lesson on economics, though, some big disagreements here, but on the tax plan, they all seem to say the same thing. The problem is how realistic is it when you have Carly Fiorina saying, I'm going to do a 3-page tax plan. No one is going to get rid of the tax code.
Well, the government is not that simple. In the business world, an executive wants an executive summary, a couple of bullet points. That works in the business world. That may not work in government at all. Is 73,000 pages a lot? Yes, it is. I think
there's some dispute if it's really 73,000 pages, by the way. It depends
with all the amendments over the years.
There's a bunch of circulars in there on what it means.
But the main point is we want to simplify it and make sure that however many pages it consists of, in words for that matter, to make sure that it generates enough jobs. The working class family can do what they need to do.
One of the things that the moderators brought up is that all of these plans actually greatly balloon the federal deficit.
I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, Rubio has a decent plan. However, his plan costs $6 trillion.
That's right.
And that's the reason why Senator Rand Paul said that, you know, you're not really a conservative. Now, Rand Paul's plan, I believe, adds about 1.7 trillion, so it's about 4.2 trillion less than Rubio's.
How could they get away with that? How could they keep saying we need to cut federal spending and cut the deficit, and then at the same point come up with a tax plan? A supply-side economics only gets you so far, right?
Well, similar to growing a business. In order to grow a business, you have to first invest. You might actually have equity or debt. In this case, there's no equity with the government.
John Kasich, though, brought up a good point, saying why put more of the burden on your grandkids, which is what all of these plans are talking about right now.
Right. Well, you know, he said that, and Governor Bush also mentioned that we cannot continue to be satisfied with 2.5% growth. We have to get to a 4% growth in order to reduce the deficit, grow the economy, and retire some of this debt.
Who do you think won this debate?
I think everybody won. I think the stage, because the
questions... Rand Paul finally got in a good zinger at Donald Trump on the issue of a China trade.
And he actually showed up. He was on the verge of falling off that cliff.
He came in energized.
And getting an invitation to the kiddie
table.
How
did Marco Rubio do? Because Because they're talking about him now being a very serious contender when you discount Trump and Carson.
He has a unique ability to speak directly into the hearts and the eyes of the everyday working American. You know, he labeled his tax plan not as a tax plan, but a pro-family plan.
And that's basically been his thing, John.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for having me.